Well, hello there. Welcome to Unsafe Spaces. I'm Randy Cross here in our next to last podcast of 2017. A couple weeks from now, we'll be talking about a brand new year and all sorts of new things to offer and to show and to comment on, which is, I guess that's the fun part of doing stuff like this. Let's get things started by a little bit of a look of what went on last week in the world of college football. A lot of schools there, a lot of notices, but really the only thing going on in college football last week, and rightfully so as a standalone game, was Army-Navy. I was there doing the March On show and the pregame offering. Just a fantastic scene, as Army-Navy always is. But you add in the point that it's, 28, 30 degrees, and it's snowing like crazy. The play on the field was what you'd expect out of an Army-Navy game. It was tough. It was crazy down to the very last drop. Lots of option football with these two teams specifically. As we take a look at some of the highlights, it involved a lot of quarterbacks running the ball. Ahmad Bradshaw for Army was extremely strong in this game. And for Navy, Malcolm Perry had a really good game and highlighted his ability, especially in this long 69-yard touchdown run in the second quarter. Navy just couldn't do much in the way of big plays after that, and credit the Army defense. And it really came down to a very simple thing, and it's something that has kind of bitten Navy on a regular basis back when they were playing well at the beginning of the year, down through a significant spate of losing here in the last 7 games or so, and that's late mistakes. They've got nobody to blame but themselves. It was 2 offsides motion penalties against the offense. You go from kicking a 40-yard field goal to, after a short run and 2 penalties, you're trying a 48, 49-yard field goal. In the snow, in the wind, in the cold. They didn't win because they screwed up, and also because Army just beat them. That was a fantastic highlight and a great way to close the regular season of the college football 2017 season. Another way you usually close the 2017 season is the Heisman Trophy. And the Heisman Trophy went to Baker Mayfield of Oklahoma. All this kid did on the season was throw 71% completions-wise, 4,340 yards, 41 touchdowns against 5 interceptions. He was the best football player in college football. Middle of the season, it looked like it might have been a running back, whether it was Saquon Barkley or Bryce Love of Stanford, but it was easily Baker Mayfield. And I think just the whole way everything was handled was perfect. This guy is not a choir boy. This guy at times is definitely not what you'd say a role model. Hey, act like that, son, as an athlete. No, not always like that. But he was the best player in the country, and he was recognized that way at the presentation of the Heisman Trophy in New York last Saturday.
I am proud to announce that this year's Heisman Trophy winner is Baker Mayfield of the University of Oklahoma.
That's a whole line of former winners.
Coach, good to see you. Appreciate you, guys. Thank you.
You know how I feel. Boomer, baby. Boomer.
Billy Sims.
Thank you, Billy, for lightening the mood. Wow. This is unbelievable for me, being up here among these greats. It's something that words can't even describe unless it's them. I mean, God has put me in a position to, I've been so blessed, and a lot of the time I wonder why, but it's such an honor. And to be up here, I really appreciate it. It's unbelievable.
Congratulations, and thank you for sharing your heart tonight. Your focus is always forward. That's the Rose Bowl in Georgia.
Yep.
But as some friends of ours from Oklahoma like to sing, take some time to waste a moment and savor what this is all about. You've met your Heisman friends. Go lift your own Heisman trophy. That one is going back to where it was born, in the state of Oklahoma. Baker Mayfield, the 83rd Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, it was a great ceremony. It's always a fantastic moment, and it's a nice touch by the Heisman people that they bring all those former winners back. I just have one suggestion on a Heisman Trophy. What do you say you make this presentation as the last thing of the college football season? That means you take your vote after the playoffs. You take your vote after the bowl games instead of just the regular season. Then you encompass everything that's happened during the course of the season. Now, would Baker Mayfield in this case still have won it? Oh, yeah, he would have. But I don't see the downside in pushing it back and doing it a little bit later and make it really and truly cap off the 2017, 2018, in this case, college football season. But that's just my 2 cents. Okay, now let's take a look at the week in the NFL, just some of these scores and highlights/lowlights. We'll start off with the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints. Pretty special game. It was a Thursday night effort. God knows it seems like it was 2 weeks ago, but for all the complaining by the Saints fans about the officiating and everything else, remember, it's a 24-hour rule, folks. After 24 hours, they've forgotten it. You should try that too. Next up is Buffalo and Indianapolis. This was played in about 1.5 feet of snow, a constant, almost whiteout condition, and Buffalo wins in overtime, 13-7. Fantastic look visually in the snow, like we said against in the case of Army Navy. You can't ask for better pictures than in a big snowstorm. It just looks like a different game. Next up on our list of scores, the Browns and the Packers. At one point in this game, it was 21-7 Cleveland. And in a very Cleveland fashion, they lost to Hundley and the Packers in a big comeback, 27-21. Just a crushing kind of a loss. But what other kind of losses are there in Cleveland? Next up, San Francisco and Houston. San Francisco now has 3 wins on the season. They beat Houston last week, 26-16. We'll be talking a little bit about that one later, as well as this next one, Jacksonville and Seattle, which was a great matchup between 2 really good teams and good defenses, won by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars might have the best defense in the NFL, for those not keeping track. This was a big game that was marred at the end by a silly, almost juvenile type of an effort/fight. In Philadelphia, played the Los Angeles Rams, and Philadelphia has done something they've done on numerous occasions. They had the last answer, and they beat the Rams 43-35, but it comes at a huge loss because Carson Wentz blew out his ACL in that game. And it's going to be backups from here on out. Nick Foles will have to be the leader of this Philadelphia team that, in all indications, looks like they might be a Super Bowl team. We'll see without Carson Wentz, who was really the guy that made things go. But don't forget that Nick Foles had 21 touchdowns and only 3 or 4 interceptions just a couple of years ago before Wentz got there. And our last score of the week was Miami and New England. And you saw them on a Monday night, and the result, for a lot of people, pretty surprising. Miami manned up. Miami ran the ball. Miami controlled the lines of scrimmage. That means they won on both sides, no matter who had the ball. And New England looked not so good. But that's fine. It's not a playoff game. It's not late. And they would still be the odds-on favorite when it comes to the AFC, without any shadow of a doubt. All right, let's get to my monologue, or my highlight of the week here for me. You would say, what is going to be the number one story in the world, in America, come tomorrow night? Now, sexual harassment of the last couple of weeks and the Me Too movement has been huge. Impeachment. People are screaming and yelling about impeaching the president. That's a gigantic. Maybe that's the big story by tomorrow night. Hey, maybe something having to do with North Korea. And maybe even our favorite little guy, Rocket Man, or Little Rocket Man, if you will. Maybe that's the number one story of tomorrow night in the world. But you know what? You'd be wrong if you thought any of those were going to be it. The number one story in the world started kind of this weekend, but it really kicks off tomorrow night into Friday. And that is Star Wars number 8. Yep. I'm just going to say number 8. All these names and everything else, I understand. But it's 8 Star Wars. And there's never enough Star Wars. Check this out.
When I found you, I saw raw, untamed power. And beyond that, something truly special.
Something inside me has always been there. But now it's awake. And I need help.
I've seen this raw strength only once before. It didn't scare me enough then. It does now. Let the past die. Kill it. If you have to. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be. We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down. Come on! This is not going to go the way you think. Fulfill your destiny.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
Yeah, I've got no problem admitting it. I'm a Star Wars nerd. I went to the very first one in summer of '77. I remember taking my little brother Tony with me. It was a theater in Westwood. I've seen them all, and I've contributed to this list here. You see the box office numbers for the Star Wars franchise. It's incredible. Now, again, we're just talking about just box office numbers. We're not talking about merchandising. We're not talking about videos. We're not talking about anything else. $7.7 billion, with a B, $billion that the Star Wars franchise has generated. No wonder Disney goes out of its way to buy everything Star Wars. And they've got a couple more movies in the pipeline, and I'm sure after that, there'll be a few more in the pipeline. They do an unbelievable job, and I can't wait to see it. Time now, let's go into our, well, let's not say butt hurt. How about cue the wambulance?
I know all there is to know about the crying.
Yeah, we had a lot of butt hurt, a lot of wambulances that were needed in Jacksonville Sunday between the Jaguars and the Seattle Seahawks. Now, everything was a little contentious until the very end of the game when it kind of went over the edge. We had players trying to go into the stands, but on the field, Jacksonville is kneeling down and basically ending the game. Seattle's not having any of it. And specifically, as you check out the video, Michael Bennett, number 72, and company inside, they decided to go at the offense of Jacksonville, pretty aggressively. Now, all Jacksonville's trying to do is snap the ball and kneel down and end the game. But Seattle, as is their right, not always approved by people in the game, but they're playing to the last second and the last echo of that last second, and they're going full speed. Michael Bennett, it will be in the middle of the screen going against Brandon Linder. That's number 65 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's roll the videotape and take a look at what this rot.
Jacksonville going to get one of the biggest wins for them in a decade. They will go to 9-4. Well,
on the left side of the screen there, that's Bennett and Linder.
Bennett in on it right there.
Bender goes in at the legs of Linder. That causes a fight. Leonard Fournette comes in. And the real jewel in this thing is linebacker 52, Terrence Garvin. He goes after 65 Linder when he's on the ground, and Bennett's on top of him. I guess it's safe to attack somebody when your teammates got him down. Pretty bold move.
Comment about the bully on the block and
yeah, it was a bad look of a lot of bad looks in 2017 for the NFL. By the way, no suspensions came out of that. We haven't had any word yet on how much in the way of fines might come out of that, but there were punches thrown and there were flags thrown and whatever. What the point is, it was. I'll just give the initials for the Seattle Seahawks. It was very CS. Fill in the blanks on what CS means. All right, next up is in the Houston-San Francisco game, something happened involving quarterback Tom Savage of the Houston Texans. And he was hit on a pass play that we're going to show you here. And he is hit hard. Watch the back of his head.
He's driven into the turf.
Now, as he goes down, look at that with his arms. That's a convulsion. That, in the parlance of concussions and brain injuries, that motion with the arms like that, that's called fencing.
But anytime I see this with the stiffness and
that
the hand shaking,
is a brain injury. That's not a potential concussion. That is a concussion. He went through the NFL's concussion protocol, and he went back in the damn game. Are you kidding me? That is a disgrace. And I think the best way to put that, we've got a little headline coming up here for you. That says it all. Do you have a concussion protocol, NFL? And if you do, is this true? I mean, seriously? I mean, this is semi-kidding. But damn, that is a terrible look. You've got doctors, you've got medical professionals. People should lose their job off of that. That is indefensible. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's go on to the next story, and that's got to do with the University of Tennessee. Now, there was a headline just yesterday in this whole process. Greg Schiano was going to be hired as the head coach at Tennessee. There was a memorandum of understanding, a potential contract involving $27 million plus, actually almost $28 million, that Tennessee was going to pay Greg Schiano to be their head coach. There was such a hue and cry and outrage that their then athletic director, Mr. Curry, called the deal off. And Schiano, rightfully so, is trying to get his money. Well, Jeremy Pruitt, who's the defensive coordinator at Alabama, he was eventually hired. Good luck, Jeremy. You're a quality football coach. But right now, Tennessee is a dumpster fire. And the man in charge of that dumpster fire is former head coach Phil Fulmer at Tennessee. He's now the athletic director. And I can't tell you how much kind of make goods, how much PR massaging and whatnot you have to do, because all the new cute-looking uniforms, all the sales campaigns won't do squat to help your public image. Because of the 130 teams that play at the FBS level, at the major college level in college football, there is nobody right now with a worse look and kind of a worse thing going on than the University of Tennessee. Time now for a little real world news. Well, the great number one story of the week, I think without any question, was the attempted suicide bomber in New York. The Port Authority quickly arrested this guy. He was a taxi driver who had been in the country since he was 20. He's a former, he's from Bangladesh, and he had himself wired with a bomb that he set off and designated that when he was going by these Christmas posters down in the Port Authority downstairs, it just set him off and made him mad. And so he set off his bomb. Luckily for his sake and for the people around him, he's a terrible bomb maker. This is not going to stop happening. But this whole idea of the chain migration, our people that we put in charge have got to figure stuff like this out. But kudos to all the first responders in New York for the way you handled this, because you were all over it. Was he on the radar? No, he wasn't. Sorry to tell you, but everybody can't be on the radar. But this was handled by the Port Authority police, by the Coast Guard, by the National Guardsmen that were on hand at the time. Very, very well. They minimized everything in the way of damage, though, admittedly, the number one thing that limited the damage was the incompetence of the person involved here in building this bomb. He's going to be a big source of information, at least as to how and why and everything else. But this guy should never see the light of day again, if he sees the light of day, period. Number two story in the real world news was something that went on Tuesday in Alabama. And that's the senatorial election between Jones and Roy Moore, pictured right here. And Jones wins in a narrow victory. Roy Moore, honestly, like I use the same term for the University of Tennessee's athletic department football program, Roy Moore was a dumpster fire. And Roy Moore was not elected to sit 2 years to fill in on Jeff Sessions' Senate seat. Had the support of a guy like Steve Bannon. However you view Steve Bannon and that support, that's how you view it. But Roy Moore not winning prevented people here in the South of seeing things like this and hearing this kind of music and analogies to the South on a regular basis. Because trust me, that would have been the result by the PC police if Moore would have won. That's a bouncy little ditty, isn't it? But Doug Jones wins, Roy Moore loses, and hopefully it's one of the last times you hear about Roy Moore. Next up on the real world news side is something that happened up in Boston. Now, here's the combination of things that happened. It's below 30 degrees. You've got 100 runners, and they're raising money for a great cause. Great. Why not note something about it? Well, it's all because this is the Boston Santa Speedo Run. It's in Boston. It's kind of like Santa Claus dressing-wise with Santa Claus hats, but everybody that runs has to wear a Speedo. In that weather, in those conditions, in the snow, wow, shrinkage alert. That's all I got to say about this. Yeah, you look like you're having fun. You better smile if it's 30 degrees, and you better run fast just to keep your body warm. But if the charity does well, everybody wins. And I guess somebody had to be the winner. And here's one of our team winners. That's indoors. It can't be outdoors. But like I said, shrinkage alert. Alrighty. Hey, let's go and move on to the tinfoil hat section of the podcast. And that's something we've seen. We've seen some of this. We saw some of it last week, and we saw a little bit of it in the past months. It's a story we've been keeping track of. Is this one right here? I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me know. You ready? Okay. Tinfoil? Okay. 3, 2, 1. All right, let's move on now to tinfoil hat. Remember our Baby Ruth story from last week? And the elongated spaceship that was seen in the deep space photos? Well, they've identified it. Not that we needed it to be identified. It looked a little different, but scientists have confirmed what we already know. And that is, they live among us. Yes, they do. They're somewhere out there. They're looking for us. And they're out there in outer space.
Well, what do you know? It kind of looks like your old pal Tyler just may have been onto something.
Oh, Tyler,
over
well
the past
played.
24 hours, I've been getting a ton of emails from people. The big story today appears to be, once again, this massive cigar-shaped object that we have so far, I think, made 2 or 3, at least 2 videos on in the past month. But it would appear now, some 22 days after I first said it,
It's a Baby Ruth.
scientists are now taking the possibility that this may actually be an alien spacecraft quite seriously.
Well, yeah, that'd be the natural connection to that. Well, you know, it's one thing when they're being sighted in deep space, but now they're showing up on camera in Montana. You can mess with the deep space, but don't mess with Montana. That's a great spot. I like to go there in the summertime. Oh, fantastic. You know, some good skiing spots, you know, up there outside of Whitefish. But in Walkerville, Montana, there was a UFO spotted. And it just, some guy happened to be taking some shots, some video, some stills. And we'll check this story out.
The witness states, I was taking photos of the supermoon on December 4, 2017 at 8:59 p.m. I was taking 5 SEC long exposure of the mining head frames and the moon.
Exposure.
I took 6 or 7 photos using different white balances settings on my camera. When I returned home, I transferred my photos to my computer, and this is when I noticed the object in only the photos I took in this one area.
Looks like the top of an antenna, not a UFO. But anyway, that's what's going on in Montana. Pretty cool, huh? Well, I want to update you on something else that's going on. If you remember when you were a kid, there was a cartoon called He-Man. Remember that? Skeletor and all them? Well, in 2019, there's going to be a Masters of the Universe movie. And, well, I've explained enough. Let me show you a little bit of what they're talking about. Cool shades on Skeletor, though. He looks like He-Man. Check this. Wow.
There are some sins that you commit that you can't come back from, no matter how hard you try.
You're not a hard guy.
Everybody has a past.
That's enough. I can't encourage anymore. I just wanted to give you a heads up and get my reaction exactly. He-Man, I was laughing. Everybody, instead of being all pumped up and muscly, looks like they're wearing muscle suits. And Skeletor had some cool looking shades on, didn't he? Yeah, that'll do it for Tinfoil Hat. Just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Hey, next up is, or in fact, actually the last thing on the show, as it is every week in the way of features, is our feel-good story of the week. All right. eating that watermelon. I love watermelon. I guess the most viral video of this last week in December involved a young kid named Keaton. And he was being filmed by his mom. And a lot of people, in fact, 16 or 20 million people watched this video of him talking about being bullied. Well, let's check out what exactly was out there.
Just out of curiosity, why do they bully? What's the point of it? Why do you find joy in taking innocent people and finding a way to be mean to them? It's not okay.
What do they say to you?
They make fun of my nose. They call me ugly. They say I have no friends.
What'd they do to you at lunch?
Pour milk on me and put a hand down my clothes. Threw bread at me.
Is it just you?
Yep.
Or is it other kids too that feel that way?
Say it's other kids too.
How's that make you feel?
I don't like that they do it to me, and I for sure don't like that they do it to other people, because it's not okay. People that are different don't need to be criticized about it, because it's not their fault. But if you are made fun of, just don't let it bother you. Just stay strong, I guess. It's hard. But it'll probably get better one day.
Hey Keaton, this is Delaney Walker, tight end for the Tennessee Titans. I wanted to read a poem to you by Buddha. Our life is shaped by our mind. We become what we think. Joy follows a pure thought like a shadow that never leaves. Always remember that. You can be whoever you want to be.
A lot of reactions in the Twitterverse and on social media. Some from celebrities, most from nobody that has any connection to being a celebrity for this kid. Now, his mom started a GoFundMe page, and that received about $50,000. And along with the attention came pictures like this that came off their her Facebook page, pictures of the Confederate flag, that people lost their freaking mind over this stuff. And she says it's supposed to be ironic and it's supposed to be funny. The pictures did include Keaton, but regardless of how you feel about that, it loses sight of what this was all about is how many kids are out there that are legitimately being bullied. Did the mom take advantage? Yeah, she took advantage. Did she do something very ignorant and stupid with some of the flag stuff? Yeah, she did do something ignorant and stupid. But I want you to check out this post that was put up and just take the time to read it. Because, you know, this is kind of the feel-good part, only in that the reaction was fantastic for this kid. But this post that was put up by Parson James, and tell me that this isn't what should be, you know, at the heart of or in the heart of those reacting to what this kid Keaton went through. And I'll read along here. With the revelations about at Keaton Jones' family surfacing, we must remember a few important things. We cannot hold kids accountable for the actions of their parents/family. Though all this was disheartening, we were all moved by the effects of bullying and to end it. And let's continue to focus on that. And as the feel-good part, I would join in here with Parson James and say, let's keep the adult part out of this and deal with them separately. But kids like Keaton Jones deserve so much better than being bullied on a regular basis. All right, I want to thank you for tuning in here and joining our podcast. Remind you where you can find this on social media, obviously at all times, unsafespacesusa.com. Go to YouTube, go to SoundCloud, iTunes, Facebook, Twitter. Any notes, any suggestions on stories, producer at unsafespacesusa.com is the place to go. And as always, as we head out here on the next to last podcast of the year, we'd like to say a happy holidays, happy trails.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Who cares about the clouds if we're